Quran study. We are starting a new surah today, the 64th surah, Surat at-Taghabun. And Sister Yamina will again be kindly leading us in tonight's study. And we're welcome to contribute by sharing our thoughts and questions. Without further delay, I'll turn to Sister Yamina. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
السلام أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Inshallah, before we start with Surat at-Taghabun, which is Surah 64, I thought maybe if we could go back to Surat Luqman, not going back to the surah itself, but to what remained of that surah with us all these weeks that we were listening to the teaching of that surah. What did we learn? If you could share anything that had an effect on your life, just so that we stay, pause, and connect with that surah. So it's not just something that we read and now we're on a new surah. Because our intention, inshallah, is not to just finish surah after surah, but to learn from them, to benefit from the guidance, to pray that we be transformed with that guidance, with that wisdom, with that light of the Quran, inshallah. So I really would appreciate if you could share what you gained from it, what attracted your attention.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Yamina.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
What comes to mind with that question for Surat Luqman is that we were advised in the beginning of the surah that wisdom was going to be disseminated to attentive, and then we were guided to the understanding of that wisdom would be disseminated to those who have ihsan. So then in sharing what this idea of ihsan is and trying to receive the state of ihsan, we were guided to this notion of surrendering, and then in this notion of surrendering we were guided to receive this idea of gratitude, and gratitude being the greatest source of wisdom. But the gratitude in and of itself wasn't sufficient. The key that I received of gratitude is being grateful to God alone. We were given many examples of lots of sources of compassion. Well, see, that's my mistake, but lots of vehicles of compassion that we are given, and how the key is to be grateful and have gratitude to God alone. And that was the greatest thing that I remember.
MashaAllah, that's great. Thank you for sharing. I'm waiting.
Thank you, Sister Sarah. And one thing that had an effect on my life recently is this the notion of patience and how it goes with gratitude, that they are the sides of the same coin. And through the flow of life and the week, there were moments where I felt I was getting impatient, and then when I remembered the connection between gratitude and patience, that kind of made me slow down and also put things in perspective. and also realize each time how there is so much more to be grateful than what I could complain about. And then the complaint therefore had a different quality to it. What was frustrating me had completely been transformed. It was still, if I had an issue with the dentist or something, there was still an issue, but it had took on a completely different hue or color. Like when I remembered the connection between
didn't have the same
patience.
effect.
Yeah, patience and
Drinks.
Yeah. And you could see that when you're grateful, it's much easier to be patient. And when you're patient, that gives you the pause to actually appreciate and be grateful. Because so far, I always thought of gratitude as something very positive and energizing, and patience something that's taking out energy from you and negative. And then seeing the connection between the two and how they support each other had some consequence for my life. May Allah increase that consequence.
And that awareness and consciousness, inshallah, for all of us.
Ameen.
I don't really know if I captured that surah completely, but to me it was of the things that we have heard earlier, a more one step more toward more consistency. So there was this so if you talk about surrendering, fine, but it was about the last piece of surrender, the complete surrender. And I'm not really sure. I often have the feeling that it's because you have read this surah in a way that you had to make sense of it. You had to get the question answered that we have. So I'm really wondering whether I would get something different from that surah if it's not because you had read that surah before you actually presented to us in that surah.
Do you mean that if you had read it on your own, maybe you would understand it differently? I'm not sure I got what you said, Andrea, so I'm asking.
Yeah, so at the moment, so the title of the surah is Luqman, which is wisdom, and I can't really pin down what actually is a piece of wisdom. So the only thing that I can say is that a couple of times in the surah, I had the feeling it was about the piece, the last piece of surrender. So so the complete surrender. So that one. So dealing with the last piece of resistance that we have, and I don't really know what is now the particular wisdom piece is there.
Actually, well, from one perspective, maybe we can say that because we talked about ihsan, which in the hadith of Gabriel is described as worshipping God as though you see him. And if you don't see him, at least you should be aware that he sees you. So it's a state of consciousness of worshipping with that consciousness that you live in the presence of God. And so we always start with, the hadith actually starts with Islam, with surrender and submission. And then Iman, which is that faith that is based on evidence and knowledge, on knowing and having that certainty. And then comes ihsan. So ihsan is like the result of all that. And of course, you can live with Islam and then when the more there is Iman, it's an Islam with Iman. So it's not like they are disconnected. They are not only connected, but you built on each other. So when we live in a state of surrender with Iman, then we start accessing that state of Ihsan, and then it goes back to we are now in a state of Ihsan with Iman, with Islam. And from that point of view, as you said, our Islam, our submission and surrender to the will of God, to the reality of what is, becomes more and more whole and total. But from another perspective, Ihsan is about that consciousness of living here and now in the presence of the divine. And that is possible when we make that choice. Then wisdom is given to us. We remember in Surat Yusuf alayhi salam, that wisdom is the wisdom with which we will decipher the signs, the ayat. We will realize how everything is pointing to God. We will start seeing wajhillah, the face, that aspect of things that look to God, to His divine names, to akhirah, to eternal life. And so this wisdom is very, very important. And it is given to the muhsin. So being a muhsin is also like surrendering and all that. It is a choice that we make. And that choice is very important, because then we are given the wisdom that is the key to remain in that state of ihsan. That makes it easy to be a muhsin, because then you will start seeing things not as things, haphazard events and things, but all as a flow of creativity, a flow of divine activity of rububiyyah. You will see the names of God everywhere. And so it becomes easier and easier to live in a state of ihsan. So wisdom is very important. It's key here. And in this Surat Luqman, we learned that wisdom, the gist of wisdom, the essence of wisdom, is to be in a state of gratitude. And gratitude to God alone, meaning that when I am grateful for a blessing, I am aware that blessing is from God, because the blessing, I don't just see it as an independent thing on its own. I see it as a sign, as a gift from God, speaking about God. So it becomes easy to be grateful to God alone. So you see, wisdom and being grateful to God alone are very much related to each other. And as Isra reminded us, what we learned here is that forbearance, that patience, because that will enable us to remain in that state, because it's easy to leave that state of ihsan, that state of gratitude. So that patience and that willingness to renew our intention to stay in that state of gratitude, therefore in that state of ihsan, therefore being the recipient of that wisdom, inshallah.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, this gratitude also I learned from this surah. It's action. It's not just saying lip service, because it says in this verse 22, whoever submits his whole self to Allah and is a doer of good, the Mohsin, has grasped indeed the most trustworthy handhold, and with Allah rests the end and the decision of all affairs. Mohsin, gratitude, and the most important thing that struck me was this verse number 25 regarding dawah, because one of the themes of this surah was dawah and how to do dawah, especially to kids. you know. So the number 25, you know, it says that if you ask these, you know, people that who created the heavens and earth, they will certainly say Allah. Say praise be to Allah. That means, first of all, the Prophet ﷺ said, at least they know this, you know. So he said, Alhamdulillah. But most of them understand not. So was a point of reflection for me, because, you know, it's not enough to just recognize that, you know, everything, it's very obvious that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. But, you know, the uluhiyah that we have to worship, it has to be translated into worship, not just recognizing God and going and worshiping the idols. That does not, there's a block over there. So, you know, that's the, I mean, people might think that's a very small difference, but it is not, it's major, because if somebody recognizes that Allah is the creator, he's managing and he's doing everything, then why would somebody else, and we would go and, you know, worship somebody else? That doesn't make sense. But this is what most of the, you know, human beings mess up with, and throughout the history, and it's only because of the guidance of the Quran that we know, you know.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's not only a claim, it's not a claim only, it's a way of life, inshallah. And that actually ties up to exactly Surat at-Taghabun, where that point is going to be emphasized, inshallah. So if you like, unless someone wants to share something, we can turn to Surat at-Taghabun. Anyone who would like to share before that? Okay.
Can you hear me? I'd like to share something.
Sure.
This is Maha. Yes. So what I learned was something, and I'm still quite intrigued by, is the gratitude isn't based on what we receive that we recognize as positive. That we are not grateful because we are recognizing A as good. Because once A is not present, then the implication is that then we shouldn't be grateful anymore.
That's what I think normally, yes. True.
Yes, I found this to be actually a very important and, for me, a new awareness and a liberating awareness. I'm still exploring it more. But the way I understood it is that we are born grateful. We're created grateful, and we are grateful for the sake of being grateful, not for the sake of I've received X, Y, and Z today, because the next person may not have X, Y, or Z, or myself, I may not have X, Y, or Z tomorrow. So I look forward to exploring more of this concept in more seminars and, you know, halaqas and so forth.
That's a very good point, Maha, because if we're grateful for specific things, then truly we're not grateful to God alone. Our gratitude is conditional on those things we talked about that then. And that will lead to a kind of shirk. We are really focused on the things themselves. And when those are not there, or what we want, our desires are not fulfilled, then we're like, why should I be grateful now? And maybe not only I'm not grateful, we can even rebel. So yes, thank you for that point. So gratitude is, it's not only gratitude, but gratitude to God alone. SubhanAllah. Something to really reflect on and contemplate, inshallah. Contemplate in the sense of tafakkur. And tafakkur is, it changes the quality of our ubudiyah. And that's why the hadith says, tafakkur sa'atin, the contemplation of 1 hour is better than that of 70 years of a lifetime, which is It doesn't mean that it's better than the worship, but it's better than the worship without that contemplation. It means more, because contemplation adds to iman and therefore to ihsan, to that worshipping God and being aware of being in His presence, inshallah. So we're starting with a new surah, and it's Surat at-Taghabun. Usually translated as mutual loss and gain or mutual disillusion, and I'll go back to that word because it has many different meanings. It's a Medinan surah and it has 18 verses, inshallah. And the title of the surah is taken from the 9th ayah, the 9th verse of the surah, where we're told يَوْمَ يَجْمَعُكُمْ لِيَوْمِ الْجَمْعِ ذَلِكَ يَوْمُ التَّغَابُن. So this Taghabun is really يَوْمُ التَّغَابُن, the day of Taghabun, the day of mutual loss of gain, the day of mutual disillusion. And that day is the day of the gathering, we are told in Ayah 9. So it's the last day, the day of resurrection. It's the day when, Taghabun is, first, the form of the word is Taghabun, which is a reciprocal from Ghabana, to forget, to neglect, to deceive, to cheat, to, yeah. So Taghabun is mutual deceiving, like deceiving each other, cheating each other, neglecting each other, neglecting something. And that's why in Arabic when we say maghboon means cheated, deceived. So here the day when everyone realizes how, I'm assuming we cheat ourselves. We cheat ourselves and we cheat each other as well, but we only can cheat each other because each one, if I have not already cheated myself, then no one else can cheat me. And what do we cheat ourselves with? With the illusion that this world is permanent. Which means that we often forget that we're here in this world as travelers only. We're not here to stay forever. One day, for sure, we will leave. We know for sure we will leave, but we tend to forget it, to ignore that reality, and we plan our life and organize everything as though we're going to stay here forever. And we're so invested in that illusion, in that, let's say, in that perception, false perception, deceitful perception, that we get anxious, we have fears, it's like real in our life. It has a toll on us. It's like sometimes life becomes like a burden. And if we question what's underneath, it's the illusion that this world is here forever, or we are here in it forever. And so we invest in this world without considering the next world, without considering that we are here traveling and that this is only a maqam, only a station, and that we are going to somewhere else. So we're not actually getting ready for our permanent station, but we're so much busy with this impermanent place, subhanAllah. I mean, when I read the title, I just stopped, because that's what we often do. And it's actually, when you start thinking about it, it's awful. It's horrifying. And so that illusory and deceitful perception of the world, they become our reality, as if it's not real, but like as if. And it's very misleading to live that way, and because it makes everything upside down. What is not important becomes very important. What is the most significant thing becomes like, if you look at our daily life, for instance, our 5 daily prayers, the time when we to invest on our connection with our Rabb, to remember our Rabb, to remember who we are, what we're doing here, where we are going. That's we want to minimize that, because we think we fancy, we have this we live in this fantasy, in this disillusion that we have very important things to deal with. Subhanallah, how foolish. And that's why we can identify even our self-identity. We don't identify as abd. We don't even, like, abd is even too far-fetched. We don't even identify as beings that with our vulnerability, with our impermanence, with our the possibility of death anytime. Remember, the last ayah of Surat Luqman was that no one knows when and where they will die. And we totally live unaware of that reality. And what comes to my mind is, for instance, titles. People love titles. We do, like in all societies. For instance, if someone is a professor, the other one is a doctor, the other one is... And why is it important? Because we tend to identify with them. Although it's not true, we are not the title. The person before, let's say the person is a physician, a doctor. Before that person was a doctor, she was still the same. I mean, her being different, her developing as a human being is not directly related to her skills as doctors. She can use that or not. She can use those, it's a double-edged sword like everything else. She can use those skills and that information and knowledge to get to know her Rabb better, or to get more arrogant and say, oh, I know lots of things now. And all those things that we know, we can have an accident and forget everything. You can have amnesia and you forget everything. How come we identify with something that is so impermanent, so fragile? And so that title in itself doesn't have a reality except what we attribute to it, ascribe to it, what we makes it to be. So for instance, if someone is a physician, it only means that she has some medical skills that I, for instance, don't have. It doesn't tell us about her humanity, her heart, the state of her soul, her sincerity, her surrender to God. It's two different things. She can use those skills just like any other knowledge or any skills in the name of God or against. But those skills, that knowledge is not who that person is. And as we know from the ayah, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Inna Allah alimun khabir. He knows very well what's going on in us. So the measure, the gauge in the eye, in the sight of God, is that God consciousness, that taqwa. This surah is Surah 64. And so when I saw the title, I really wondered what was going on before in the surah, in the previous surah, because usually the topics are related. So I went to the previous surah, which is Surah 63, and looked at the very end, at the three last ayat. And subhanAllah, it's Surah al-Munafiqun, the hypocrites. And this is what the last three ayats are about. O you who believe, let not your worldly goods or your children make you oblivious of the remembrance of God. For if anyone, any of you behave this way, it is they who are the losers. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تلهيكم أموالكم ولا أولادكم عن ذكر الله ومن يفعل ذلك فأولئك هم الخاسرون. And spend out in charity of what we have provided for your sustenance before there comes a time when death approaches any of you. And he then says, oh my Rabb, if only you would grant me a delay for a short while so that I could give in charity and be among the righteous. وأنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي أحدكم الموت فيقول ربي لولا أخرتني إلى أجل قريب فأصدق وأكون من الصالحين. And the next ayah is the last ayah of Surah 63 is, but God never grants a delay to a human being when his term has come, and God is fully aware of all that you do. ولن يؤخر الله نفسا إذا جاء أجلها والله خبير بما تعملون. I thought this is very like it's an introduction to Surah 64. It says, do not let your worldly goods, your property, your children, things that we tend to be attached to, make you forget the remembrance of God. وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ, and whoever does that, whoever actually becomes so involved in the goods of this life that he becomes oblivious of the remembrance of God, meaning that he doesn't make the connection. The goods, the properties, and the children and everything, that attachment that we are created with, because it's an innate attachment and an innate compassion and love that we have for them, that relationship was supposed to be the indication, the sign that will remind us of God. And instead, we become totally immersed in the things, in the property, in the things themselves, and oblivious of the remembrance of God. Then whoever does that, they are the losers, which means they will lose not only this world, but the next. This world, because however fun and joy we have, because it's impermanent, it's always going to leave those traces of sadness. And deep down, even when we are having the best time, we know that it's not going to last. And of course, in the next, it will be the big awakening. That will be the day of Taghabun, of like, we will realize how much we deceived ourselves, how much we cheated ourselves. And it says, spend out in charity of what we have provided you. Of course, it's easy to spend when we are, for the muhsin who is aware that whatever is given to us is It's given to us. So it's not first, there is no an attachment to the thing itself. Second, the thing, that attachment and that love and that joy of having something valuable is a reminder and a sign that of the source. And so it's easy to share with others, and especially to give in charity, meaning to give to those who need it. And a very small example is when, for instance, if you are someone who likes chocolate like me, then you like it when you eat chocolate. But if you have a child, for instance, and the child likes chocolate, it is even more enjoyable to give that bar of chocolate to the child and watch the child enjoying it than actually eating it yourself, because you're eating it, it's going to end anyway, whether you eat it or not. But that joy of the child is more meaningful and more joyful for the human heart than the chocolate itself, than the joy we get from the chocolate itself. And so it is with charity. When we give to someone who needs, actually, it's very, Allah made it easy. So He made the joy and like the reward for giving in the giving itself, to make the giving easy. But however, if we don't have that awareness that everything is given to us here, it says of what we have provided, Allah is saying, we gave you, this is sustenance. It's if I'm not aware of that, then why should I share it with others? I minimize my sharing with others, because the more we're unaware of akhirah, the more we're blinded with that. We forget that the world is impermanent. Deep down, though, we still know. Therefore, we become more greedy, because we're looking for satisfaction in impermanence, which is impossible. And so we think if we have more, it will do the trick, which is a lie. We're just deceiving ourselves. And when death comes, when death approaches, what do we say? He says, oh my sustainer, oh my Rabb. So the person knows his Rabb. يقول ربي لولا أخرتني. Just leave me like a little more, like we get, let's say, a very serious illness, and we realize suddenly that we could leave any time, and we say, oh, just let me leave so I can do some more good. Well, do it now. Why are you waiting for them? And then وَأَكُونَ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. Then I will be one of the righteous, which means we know it. It's not talking about someone who doesn't know his Rabb, doesn't know that charity giving, he should be giving in charity, that everything is given to him, that when you give, you become one of the Salihin, righteous. So this person knows everything, yet, subhanallah, makes the choice of not giving and not being a righteous person. Why? Because we forget about death. We forget about the reality of life. And the last ayah of this Surat al-Munafiqun, the Surah of the hypocrites, is because this is hypocrisy, knowing and doing something else. That's what hypocrisy is. It says, but God never grants a delay. So do not rely, do not deceive. Let's not deceive ourselves like at the end I will do something. Because when the time comes, God doesn't grant a delay to a human being. When his term has come. When the term has come, you have to leave. So we always have the now. The past is over. We can only make istighfar for it. We can repent for it. But if we truly repent for the past, then we need to take make our choices accordingly now, because but we'll say tomorrow, next year, we don't know what will happen. There is no tomorrow now. Yes, I can start now with the intention to carry on tomorrow and next year, but I cannot totally delegate everything to next year. Now I'm busy with something else. What does it mean? If it's important, you start it now. If Allah gives you the opportunity, inshallah, we'll carry on tomorrow. If He doesn't, I did whatever I could now. So in this Surat at-Taghabun, the first ayah, we're told, all that is in the heavens and all that is on earth extols God's limitless glory, makes tasbih to God. His is all dominion, and to Him all praise is due, and He has the power to will anything. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير. And this يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض. Once we looked at tasbih in our monthly teleconferences, and also when we were looking at Surat Yunus alayhi salam, and we talked about tasbih, and also we are also asked to make tasbih. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى, for instance, and that's what we do in the 5 daily prayers when we are bowing and when we are in prostration. Subhana Rabbi al-Azim and Subhana Rabbi al-A'la. So we are asked to make tasbih, and to the extent that I truly makes tasbih, I understand that everything is making tasbih as well. So there are many surahs that starts with sabbaha or yusabbihu. Here it's yusabbihu. It's not only in the heavens, but there is an emphasis. All that is in the heavens and all that is on earth, they all make tasbih to God. And so if everything truly glorifies God, truly makes tasbih to God, then what does it mean? It means that all mulk, all property, everything belongs to Him only. Because whatever we hear, they are making tasbih. Making tasbih means not only they are reciting His beautiful attributes, but they are also proclaiming that there is no imperfection. Whatever imperfections we see, they are our own perceptions. Everything is making tasbih. And so if everything is truly making tasbih to God, what does it mean? It means they belong to Him only. And it means all praise, if everything belongs to God, when I praise anything, that praise is not due to the thing or the person, or it's due to Him alone, because everything goes back to Him. And that means that He has power over all things. And I think this last one is also very important, because shirk is when we give power to things in themselves from themselves. But he says, no, here it says, no, if. It doesn't say if, it says everything glorifies God, therefore mulk belongs to Him only, praise is due to Him alone, and He has power over all things. Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, I better make sure that I do establish the truth that everything makes tasbih to God. Because if I can hear and see and perceive everything is making tasbih, then I would have no problem realizing that everything is his property, that all praise is due to him only, and that he has power over all things. Rather than going and checking one by one, is it God's or not? We can't do that anyways. We cannot comprehend and encompass all of creation anyways. We did the ahadiyya wahidiyya, like looking at every single thing and how it ascribes everything it is interconnected to God alone. That's a tasbih. Maybe someone can remind us of that when we talked about tasbih. Anyone? Isra?
Yamina, could you repeat your question?
Yeah, okay. Tasbih, at least for me, is that everything what we describe as the laws of the world, the laws of gravity, the laws of the cycle of life, the laws of everything we have. This is the way things make tasbih to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is, they themselves with their laws are a sign of the majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they make tasbih by following the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by what we describe them. We describe the cycle. We say this needs, the leaves need the light. There's chloroform. Then the tree gets its nutrition from the roots, and this is how the roots. All of this is tasbih. All of this is, for me, that's tasbih.
You mean the fact that they are all interconnected? So to have for one single thing, one single, however small it is, even one single atom or one single tree, to exist and be in this world, it needs all the rest of the universe, of the world, of the creation. The tree needs the soil, the water, the air, the sun, therefore the seasons, therefore the rotation of the earth around the planets and everything, and so on and so forth. All the laws of physics and chemistry and everything. So this interconnection of everything makes it so that when we look at one thing, it points to, or it tells us that whoever makes me, like for instance in this example, the tree says, my maker can only be the maker of everything. Because the tree seems to be limited and small, it could be, we could assume without actually thinking about it, that it's not a big deal to have a tree. But actually, the tree can only exist with the whole world, with the whole thing. Whoever gives life to the tree is the one who gives life to everything. So the tree is like saying to us, my maker can only be the maker of everything. And this is, for instance, a kind of tasbih. It is a kind of speaking through the tongue of being. And so when I become proficient in this tasbih and I observe it first, mushahada, make mushahada, and then witness it, make the shahada that truly there is the creator, the maker of this tree, can only be the maker of everything. Then, to that extent, I realize that whoever owns the tree owns everything. And so praise is due to him alone. He has power over whoever has power over the tree has power over all things.
The phrase that was used one time before was the signature. There's the same signature in everything. The signature of the Creator. The same.
Yes.
The same way. Like if you look at everything, the perfection of everything shows it's the signature. But what you're bringing in and telling us now is also that the interconnectedness of things, that things cannot exist by themselves, is a sign that there's one Creator, because that Creator has used all of everything to create everything. So we're all interdependent, showing that like even us on Earth are part of a galaxy. So the one who created the galaxies, like, and the galaxy standing up, and not like falling apart, is the one who created humans, and is the one, because all of this is interconnected.
Yeah. And interconnected means they are inseparable.
Yeah, they need each other. And then when you look into each of them, there's the same signature, and that's another one. And then, like you said once before, each of them has hikmah and wisdom and mercy in the way they're created. So then it's also that same signature, that how things are created.
When you look at the tree itself, for instance, and the tree and our connection to it, how, for instance, it gives us oxygen, it cleans the air and things like that. Some trees, like lots of trees, gives us shade, gives us fruit, and all these things are, again, their tasbih, part of the tasbih. There are so many tasbih. Remember the ayah in Surat Luqman, if all the oceans were ink and all the trees were pens, they would not be able to exhaust Kalimat Rabbi, my Lord's words. So the tasbihat are also these words that they are speaking and that are endless. And so this interconnection is only one of them. When you look at each of them also, there are so many, as you said, wisdom within wisdom within wisdom.
And Yamina, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in other verses that everything is doing tasbih in their own style, and we don't know how, we can't figure out, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows their tasbih. Like angels have a different style of tasbih depending on how they are programmed. The birds are doing differently, the shadows are doing differently, the trees are doing differently, and only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
But the fact that we are told again and again, and we are told to make tasbih ourselves, it means that we may not understand everything, but the ayats themselves are an invitation for us to ponder about what this tasbih is. Because in this ayah it's saying, for instance, all that is in the heavens and all that is on earth makes tasbih to God. Therefore, all the mulk is his alone, all praise belongs to him alone, and he has the power to will anything. Unless I have some understanding of what tasbih is, I will not be able to confirm the truth of this ayah. So yes, in Surat al-Isra it says, تُسَبِّحُ لَهُ السَّمَاوَاتُ السَّبْعُ وَالْأَرْضُ وَمَنْ فِيهِنْ وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُمْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ حَلِيمًا غَفُورًا. It doesn't mean that we will not understand anything, otherwise there will be no wisdom in telling us about the tasbih again and again, and then telling us, look, everything is making tasbih, you make tasbih as well. So I'll say, what tasbih am I going to do? I don't know what tasbih is.
So I think our tasbih is our tadabbur. We are doing a tasbih with our akhal because we are programmed for that. So every, creation, the way they are programmed, they do it in their own style and the way.
Yeah, but like,
remember
You're still assuming a certain understanding of tasbih.
No, in Surah Ra'd, remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that everything willingly or unwillingly does tasbih.
True. But what they do, we have been endowed with the ability to understand what they do. We can go and observe and research and measure and make conclusion about what things are going on and what the meaning of those activities a sign is. We follow the guidance of the Quran.
And Yamina, one of the things like the willingness and willingly is when we are doing the reflection, and unwillingly, even when I'm not, even if I didn't want to do tasbih, my body, the way it's acting, the way my mind is acting, the way my breath goes in and out, all of this is doing tasbih. Like, the willingly is when my spirit joins in. The unwillingly, when my spirit, when my nafs does not want to join in, but the rest of my body is going to do it anyway. Like, it is following, it's making tasbih by, that's why God says, look into your own body, look how is it working. It is making tasbih, it's showing, and the word tasbih means to praise, like, to show perfection. Like, it's showing how perfect God is. And everything is showing how perfect God is, because everything is done in such a perfect way that, like, that can only be done by a creator. It cannot be done haphazard. And once we realize that, then we realize, wow, then everything is made with that such creation, with such.
Then we say subhanallah, which is
it cannot be haphazard. So when I'm willingly, my soul also does it. But when unwillingly, everything in my body does it except my nafs. It doesn't want to do it.
Like the rest of creation. Subhanallah. So it's very important that we actually confirm the truth of this ayah, which is that everything does indeed make tasbih to God. And how do you proceed? How do I may understand that everything is making tasbih to God? The next 3 ayahs clarify that. The next ayah, which is the second ayah, tells us that He, meaning God, is the one who has created us. So in the second ayah it says, He it is who has created you, and among you such are those who deny this truth, and among you are those who believe in it, and God sees all that you do. وَالَّذِي خَلَقَكُمْ فَمِنْكُمْ كَافِرٌ وَمِنْكُمْ مُؤْمِنٌ وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. So shouldn't be so difficult to verify this, because it's about us, ourselves. It says,
Sister Yamina, could I just add something here?
Sure.
This verse, having heard it right after Sister Alia's comment, was very interesting, because she said how we glorify God willingly and unwillingly, consciously and unconsciously. Even when I am unconscious and forgetful of my Creator, the way I am acting, both physically and emotionally and mentally, I am glorifying the one who made me, who's making me. And so after that, reading this verse, right after mentioning praise, it's saying He's the one who created you, and among you are those who deny, and among among you also those who believe. So regardless of whether we believe and we don't, we are praising.
And we are, everything is making tasbih. And the first example is that He created us. Look at yourself, it says. You look at your own creation. Whether people deny it or believe it, the fact remains the same. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And
I wanted to add, again, I keep bringing this up, but about perfection, Sister Alia was saying everything is perfect and glorifying God. And And that includes imperfections as well, that when I fall short, that becomes another way of glorifying God. And actually, precisely because I fall short, like sometimes I can do something amazing, and then sometimes I did do the most dumb thing. So doing the together, both of them coming out of me, shows that I am not the one who owns perfection. I'm just able to give some glimpses from time to time, and my imperfections are there to highlight that it's not about you, it's about what is shining through you. And that's glorification. Glorification means it's not about me. I am the way I am made, and then the way things are shining through me, and the way things are not shining, the way I fail, it all together points to somebody beyond me. And that's glorification.
When we understand that, because we are the yardstick, because we project our self-perception onto the perception of the world, then we will start realizing that what we think is good and what we think is bad, for instance, life and death, both of them are created, both of them, and it is in the relationship between the two, in that contrast between the two, that the ayah, what we call the ayah, because if we have only life or only death, we wouldn't be able to read the creation. We wouldn't be able to hear any tasbih. It is in that what we think is perfection versus imperfection, what we think is good versus not good. In that interaction, in that interplay, that the tasbih is going to manifest itself. Because tasbih is, sometimes we say, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ. So praising, they make tasbih by praising him. But tasbih is also not only praising, but also saying that what you think is imperfect is not imperfect, because in itself it could seem imperfect, but it's not there for itself. It's there to show something else. And it's because we have perfect and more perfect, perfect and less perfect, that we actually become aware of a source of perfection. As you said about ourselves, we become aware that it's not about me, and therefore it's not about the thing themselves, but about where they are coming from, what they are talking about, what they are indicating and pointing. It's about that infinite source of perfection and goodness. And that's what the human heart and soul long for, not the things themselves. And so it shouldn't be difficult to verify that we are created. I mean, aren't we being created right now? Aren't we being sustained here and now? Aren't we endowed with life here and now? And this reminds me of the supplication, munajat of Uwais al-Qarani, who says, "Oh God, you are my creator. How do I know? Because I look at myself, I am being created." And he also says, like, I don't remember the order, but like, "Anta al-maliku wa ana al-mamluk." Like, you are the owner. Why? Because I look at myself and I'm owned property. I have no idea. I say these are my, for instance, nails, but they grow and I have to cut them and they don't listen to me. Clearly, I am an owned property myself. And you are the provider because I'm the one provided. And you are the healer because I am the sick. I'm the one who needs that healing and health and so forth. So actually, it doesn't take long to realize that we are created. It's really a matter of intention. If we have the right intention and we have the intention to surrender, it's very easy to see the extent of our being created and sustained. because we haven't just been created and left. Right now, everything is being sustained and maintained in life and in being, in existence. And interestingly, so it says, but yet some of us deny this reality. So not everyone believes in this like almost like obvious reality, but some of us deny it. And it makes me think that it's not only some of us deny it and some of us believe it, but it's also me. Sometimes I believe it, but sometimes I live in denial of that reality, or in ignorance of that reality. But whatever we do, whether we deny or we believe, here, let's keep in mind that God sees all what we do. Wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. Whatever we do, He sees it. That we need to keep in mind. So I can deceive myself and cheat myself. I can forget, and we don't forget things that are important to us. We only forget because we're not giving it its due importance. But I can forget, I can cheat myself. But the fact remains that God sees all what we do, all what I do. There is something interesting here as well, is that denying the truth comes first. He it is who has created you, and among you are such as deny this truth, and among you are such as believe in it, and God sees all what you do. And I thought maybe denying the truth that it is He who has created us is mentioned first. Maybe this way it attracts our attention. It did attract my attention. And so you start, why is this first? Like, maybe it's to attract our attention to how serious, how grave the situation is that we've been given. It's also a reminder that we've been given free will. And this free will has very important consequences. Because we think, oh, but I didn't choose to deny. Yes, but like when I don't choose to live with that consciousness, with the consciousness that I'm created, it is as though I am denying it, even if I'm not actively denying it. So this free will, I have to be careful about it, because I have to use it consciously and responsibly, because it has this very serious consequences. And because even when we don't actively deny the truth, if we're not consciously confirming it and live accordingly, then we end up living in denial of that truth. And we cheat, we end up cheating ourselves, deceiving ourselves. We become a maghboon, deceived. And we often also mutually deceive each other. When we are people who are in that state of mind, we mirror each other and project our deception onto each other's. And also it's a reminder that when we choose to believe, because those who believe come second, it's not that hard. It's not like we have to make a struggle and make an effort, because everything in creation makes this be. Everything in our creation around us is actually indicating that truth and supporting it, and the Quran is supporting it, and we were sent the prophets to remind us, and we've been given that inner conscious that also reminds us. So that's why it comes after, because we're actually more active in denying than when we are in believing. And then we're reminded in the third ayah that He has created the heavens and the earth in accordance with truth, and has formed you so well, and with Him is your journey's end. Each time He created you, some don't deny, some believe, and remember, he knows everything. Like there is no way to, if you cheat, you're only cheating yourself, only deceiving yourself. Here it says, خلق السماوات والأرض بالحق وصوركم فأحسن صوركم وإليه المصير. So he has created the heavens and the earth with haqq. So it's not haphazardly, it's with the truth. So wherever you look, you will see there ثم وجه الله. You will see the face of God. You will see the signature of God. You will see his stamp. You will see his athar everywhere. And he has formed you so well. Like, oh, I didn't get it, but no. He has created us so that we can recognize the truth. He has taught us all the names. He has breathed of his own spirit into us. وَإِلَيْهِ الْمَصِيرُ. And on top of that, let's remember that this journey on down here in this life will end, and the end is with him. We're going back to him. So like, as it says in Surat al-Quran, وَمَا يَغَرَّنَّكُمْ بِاللَّهِ الْغَرُورُ. How can you deceive yourself? How can we deceive ourselves when we are journeying towards him? Subhanallah. And then, in that, not only he has created the heavens and the earth, but he knows all that is in the heavens and on earth. And he knows all that you keep secret as well as that you bring into the open. For God has full knowledge of what is in the hearts. Very, very, very powerful. Like he knows everything in the. If you're not sure, what is in our heart comes last, because, oh, how do I know he knows in my heart? Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe I can hide it. Well, just go and study what is the heavens and earth, and you understand how everything is created with perfect knowledge, knowingly. As in Surat Luqman also, there was this knowledge. So each time we are reminded of the truth, he is our creator, the creator of the heavens and the earth. He has formed us in the best form, but also that the end of this life journey is with him, and that he knows everything, including what is in people's hearts, what is in our hearts. Which means, like, where do you think you're going? To whom? So who are we deceiving when we are not sincere in our claims, when we do not live according to what we know? And that knowledge actually doesn't really become knowledge, ma'rifah, when we don't live accordingly. And also, there is that saying that says, live with what you know, and Allah will increase your knowledge. Because otherwise it becomes only abstract knowledge. It can only go down from the mind into the heart and becomes our reality when I start practicing it. So it reminds me of when it says, قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. Say, behold, the death from which you are fleeing is bound to overtake you. There is no way we can run away from death. And then you will be brought back onto him, who knows all that is beyond the reach of a created being's perception, as well as all that can be witnessed by a creature's senses or mind, whereupon he will make you truly understand all that you were doing. So let's pray that we will see see there, we will be told there all things that we will love. We will, it's, you know, it's like when you have a good students who did very well at the exam, they are looking forward for the results. They're excited because they want to see their grades, they want to see the good comments, and the others are scared. They don't even want you, when you say exam results, they say don't talk about it. And it's all up to us to choose what we want here in this world. It reminded me of Surat at-Qiyamah, the surah called the Resurrection, where we're told on that day, man will exclaim where to flee, where to run away. يقول الإنسان يومئذ أين المفر كلا لا وزر إلى ربك يومئذ المستقر. Nay, there will be no refuge with your Rabb, with your sustainer on that day. The journey's end will be, actually it's even more than the journey's end. Al-Mustaqar, Alia, how would you translate Al-Mustaqar? It's something that is there to stay forever. That's with our Rabb.
Yeah, it's like a centralizing, a weighing, something that weighs you. A destination, like a destination, like
a destination and a permanent destination. It has qarar. On that day, human being is told the tale of that which he has sent before and left behind. Oh, but human being is a telling witness against himself, although he tender his excuses. Although he makes up excuses, but actually he knows, deep down he knows that he's making excuses. ينبأ الإنسان يومئذ بما قدم وأخر بل الإنسان على نفسه بصيرة ولو ألقى معاذيره. And that's why we ask to flee back to God. In Surat at-Dhariyat, it says, so flee unto God. Truly, I am a plain warner to you from Him. فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنِّي لَكُمْ مِنْهُ نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ. It's just beautiful. So if you're going to run and flee unto God, because that's where we are going anyway. And do not ascribe divinity. The ayah carries on. Do not ascribe divinity to aught besides God. Truly, I'm a plain warner to you from Him. Again, وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ إِنِّي لَكُمْ مِنْهُ نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. Again, second time. So what does it mean to ascribe gods next to God? It says, run, flee unto God. When we are not fleeing unto God, we are fleeing onto something else. It means we are ascribing divinity, power, something to something other than God, that we are seeking their help. We're running to them. We're hoping from some help or something from them. And so ascribing gods next to God does not mean that I believe in 2, 3 gods, not only one God. It means I am seeking help, seeking relief, seeking joy, satisfaction, fulfillment from something other than God. And therefore, because of that expectation, we end up devoting our time, our life, our efforts to that thing, to that cause, to that person, to that goal other than God, and apart from God, without any connection with God. And that is what it means to worship others, other things, others, instead of God. It means to attribute to them qualities that pertain to God alone. And for this reason, because we ascribe to them some qualities that actually belong to God alone, then we see reason to devote and dedicate ourselves to them. And that's why in in the Quran, when it talks about worshipping idols, it doesn't say ibadah, but akifin. It says akif, which is devotion. So it says, قالوا نعبد أصناما. How do we worship idols? فنظل لها عاكفين. We worship idols by devoting ourselves to them. Like what does it mean to worship idols? Like just to prostrate to them? Not necessarily. Idols are not always something like a statue. Anything we devote our life to, our effort, our time, which is part of our life, to, in this connection with God, is a devotion and therefore a form of worship. That's ascribing shirk. Or here, لا تجعلوا مع الله إلها آخر. Because they become like our gods in that situation. We seek help or refuge or profit, risk or whatever from them, without any connection with God in that particular situation. I don't know about time, but even if we don't have time, maybe I can give you this question, and it could be something to reflect on, so we can start with that next, well, not next week, but the week after. I believe Isra announced that we're not meeting next week, inshallah. And the question is, how would our life transform here and now if we live in constant awareness of that day, the day of Taghabun? And how would it affect our surrender to God in God? I will stop here. I don't know about Isra will tell us if we have the time to consider this question now, or if we better leave it for next
I
meeting,
suggest
inshallah.
we leave it for the next time we meet, inshallah. It's a nice closing and opening at the same time. So I pasted the question here: how would our life transform here and now if we live in constant awareness of that day? How would it affect our surrender to God? So yeah, with that, let's stop here, inshallah.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. آمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. استغفر الله العظيم الكريم الرحيم الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ونتوب إليه سبحانه. لله الفاتحة. Inshallah, we'll all read the Fatiha after we leave, inshallah. Thank you.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Sister Yamina. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight.